Let's try
Still
that
want to hear
again.
from you.
Hi everyone, we're live. My name's Jim, and if by some miracle you don't know who I am already, I am your postgraduate students officer, and I am here to welcome you to a brand new show run by the Students' Union. So thank you for joining us. This show, the group chat, will be happening weekly, and we're going to be chatting through the news of the week, answering questions, highlighting events coming up, doing some interviews with some interesting people, and giving you some insight into how UCL's working for you or how we are working for you. So it's going to be hosted by us, your officer team. Today, you're being hosted by me, Jim, postgrad officer, and
I'm Carol, your
Carol,
Democracy Operations and Community Officer.
And I'm Eamon, your Education Officer.
Beautiful. Now, on the agenda for this first group chat, we will be covering No Detriment, This Girl Can Week, next week's events highlights, news on the new provost and the new officer structure, and answering some of your questions. Now, the questions that we're going to answer from you have come from our Instagram Q&A that we run every week on Wednesdays, as well as our Facebook comments. So if you're watching right now and you have any additional questions you want asked, please feel free to just drop a question in the comments and our team will pick it up and we might just answer it. But anyway, next up is our title animation.
Okay, so if you've been following the kind of Student Union social media over the last year, you might have seen some of my weekly update videos that I used to do weekly. I did about, I think it was like 32 in total. So kind of weekly videos where I used to kind of talk about kind of what was happening at UCL and the Students' Union over the last week. And so we're kind of merging those two things together. So we've got a weekly part of this group chat is me talking about kind of the stuff that has happened with a lot of help from my fellow hosts. So the first kind of big news story this week is about the officer portfolio kind of changes that are coming into place starting July, and kind of so on Monday, the union executive, so the big, like the kind of highest democratic structure within the Students' Union, spent about 2 hours debating and discussing kind of changes to the officer portfolio structure, trying to combat kind of current issues with like workload and potential non-compliance with the 1994 Education Act, amongst many other things, and kind of staff support for liberation officers. So in the newsletter that was sent out from me yesterday, it's the top story on there. So if you kind of click on it and have a look at kind of what the changes are coming into place, we haven't looked at our kind of officer portfolios for the last 5 years, so it's about time we needed to kind of change some things around and kind of have a like fresh perspective on the officer portfolio team. And yeah, there's loads of information in the article on our website. The second is that we have a new provost, Michael Spence. This is the ending of his second week in post. And actually today is, earlier today, he had a 3.5 hour introduction to Students' Union UCL, which was great to be involved in. We were horribly behind schedule. At one point, we were 50 minutes behind. And the main reason was because he had so many questions. He really wanted to understand what it's like to be a student at UCL, like now and in the past, and looking at kind of what our plans are for the future and how he can really embed students within decision making at UCL. And it was really great to have those conversations with him. Jim and Eamon, do you have any kind of insights to share?
Eamon?
Yeah, I'm just going to echo what Carol said. He was asking so many questions. He was really inquisitive, incredibly engaged. He just wanted to know a little bit about what it is that we get up to and how we can work together, productively in the future as partners, working together to make UCL a better place for students. So yeah, I expect there's going to be a lot more engagement and a lot more questions from him. It was really good to hear.
Absolutely. And Jim?
Yeah, I think I'm just going to echo everything you guys said. I know it's still early days. It's really early days. I know everyone's invested in what the new provost is going to be like, what's he going to bring to the university. And so far, in the past couple of weeks, from what Carol, Eamon, and I have seen, he is definitely prioritizing the student perspective and the student voice. That, again, like I said, it's early days, but if the rest of his tenure continues the way the first few weeks have been, students are going to be centered throughout, and that's always a good thing.
Absolutely. And then the third kind kind of big piece of news this week is that there was another EACP meeting involving Jim and Eamon, and we've actually got a whole segment later about this, so I won't kind of talk about it too much, but it was pretty much just before this call. So it's very much kind of news, hot off the press, everything like that. Well, fantastic. So that was the weekly update. We're going to do kind of these segments every week so you can stay up to date with everything that's happening at Students' Union UCL and the institution UCL. And now we'll be moving on to the student questions Q&A. So each week we try and answer your questions on our Instagram story, and that is every Wednesday. And kind of every other Wednesday, I also get involved with it as well and kind of try and answer the many, many questions we get. And so what we're going to do is we're going to highlight 3 questions that lots of people asked 2 days ago and try and give a bit more detail to our answers. So the first one is someone was feeling really overwhelmed and that they don't feel like they can ask lecturers for support without bothering them. So Eamon and Jim, do you have anything to kind of offer this student?
Who's going first, Jim?
Eamon, you go first.
Yeah, absolutely. Not to worry. So when I come across things like this, the first thing my mind goes to is the advice service that we offer as a union. I really just can't stress enough how amazing it is. So the advice service, for those of you who don't know, it's, as it says in the name, it's an advice service, but it's completely independent from UCL. It's completely free, and they can advise you on everything and anything. It's a group of experts, and they cover things from your employment rights to your personal support, your well-being, things like housing, your own safety. It's literally incredibly comprehensive. So if there's something that you do need more support on, the advice service is the place you should check out when we're back onto campus here on the first floor of our building. But for now, they'd be more than happy to help you remotely. But yeah, the advice service, I really can't stress enough how brilliant they are.
It's also worth mentioning personal tutors. Your personal tutor is actually there to support you when and if you're feeling overwhelmed by both pastoral or academic needs. It came to my attention last year that a lot of students don't actually know who their personal tutor is. I wasn't surprised by that fact because I also didn't know who my personal tutor was at the time. But you can find out the details of your personal tutor on Portico. Literally, once you sign in, it's right there on the first page. Generally speaking, across UCL, most staff members understand what you're going through and are there to be supportive towards you. We do appreciate that sometimes there might be some conflict, that might not be the case, but generally speaking, there is the general desire to help and support students throughout. And if you end up running any difficulty in this regard, like Eamon said, our advice service is there to help you.
Yeah, and I think the first part of the question about kind of feeling overwhelmed, I think a lot of people are feeling that right now. I'm certainly feeling that as a sabbatical officer. This whole year has been really weird and really intense, and so kind of it's often worth kind of looking at what support services are available to you kind of outside of your academics to see kind of if there's anybody that you can talk to, or kind of just reaching out to friends and just saying, I'm having a bit of a rough time at the moment, can I just kind of can we just have a chat about Animal Crossing or something so I could take my mind off of it. Like that really works for me, talking about video games. So I highly encourage, if anybody else plays video games, I highly encourage just talking about them with someone. It really helps distract you and you just forget about all the weird stuff that is happening right now in the world. So then the next question is, any chance UCL will reduce tuition fees? Seems a bit unfair that we can't use facilities.
I'm happy to kick off this one, Eamon. Any chance that UCL will reduce tuition fees? It's we're Students' Union UCL, we're not UCL. It's not our job to speak for UCL. However, from our roles and our insights and our interactions with UCL, we have had a bit of insight into the financial situation at the moment, and we've decided, based on everything we're doing and based on everything we've seen, that the most productive strategy to actually get refunds, especially as this situation affects the entire higher education industry, is to campaign nationally. So since the new year and before the new year, in fact, we've put some concerted efforts into increasing our national footprint. For instance, you remember the open letter that we wrote to the teaching community earlier. We've managed to leverage that and use that to open reciprocal communication channels with the Department of Education. In fact, we did have a response from Michelle Donlan earlier this week, so we're trying to see if we can turn that into an actual conversation at the end of which will hopefully be something along the lines of a reduction or refund for tuition fees. We're also working with the OFS. I believe Carol and I are working towards a potential speaking engagement there, as well as Advanced HE. So we are making massive concerted efforts to improve our national footprint, and going to use that to actually work towards reducing tuition fees and other aspects of our education that are determined by national legislation and the government policies.
Yeah,
Eamon,
like as a. Oh no, yeah, go ahead, Eamon.
All I was going to say is, rest assured, as UCLSU, we're really kind of spearheading the national effort alongside other unions. So last week, Carol and I think on a Friday night it was when the last thing I wanted to be doing was working. But we were actually in a meeting with all the other Russell Group SU presidents. And we were essentially strategizing, how can we get this to Parliament? What's the best way to go about it? And I really hope that in the next couple of weeks we'll be able to come forward with some really concrete steps that we've taken. We're hoping to meet some MPs. Our local MP, Keir Starmer, who's actually the head of the opposition, we're looking to meet him. We're going through, all the channels that we can actually go through, and really, really hope that we can get some results. We're doing our best.
Yeah, and kind of look out for some kind of big announcements shortly, as there's quite the Russell Group Student Union group chat has just been so many notifications. So something big is coming. And then the third question is there a chance we get to choose if we want to study in person or remotely next academic year?
Again, it's still very early days. So I'm actually in the academic planning group. So I'm working with UCL to ensure that the student perspective is centered when it comes to our plans for the next academic year. And we're just starting to crystallize what those plans are. However, it's cool that you use the word crystallize, because that is a metaphor that did come up in that meeting. We don't have a crystal ball. We can't actually predict what's going to happen next year, but we are trying our best. Well, when I say we, I'm speaking for UCL. So UCL is trying its best to ensure that we accommodate all students regardless of what they want to do. So ultimately, the institution is trying to be flexible. If you want to study remotely, there hopefully will be facilities to allow that. And if you wish to come in person, hopefully that'll be captured as well. We're centering students, and one thing that students really want right now is agency and the ability to make their own decisions. So it's quite literally my job to ensure that this is factored into every decision that is being made by the academic planning group, and that's what I'm doing.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think kind of UCL is learning kind of what's worked well this year. It sounds a bit weird to say, but kind of education is so much more accessible now to all students than it ever has been before. Kind of lecturers are like subtitling their own videos without being prompted by students. There are kind of are transcripts available online for kind of audio material, and it's just incredible to see that kind of when UCL absolutely needs to, it can be more accessible. And so part of the Students' Union's role in the next few months is to ensure that things don't regress back to what they were, that kind of we take the strengths from both a more face-to-face education and an online education and bring it together to make sure that kind of UCL education as a whole is even better than what it was previous to COVID. Eamon, do you have anything else to add on this?
I think you've covered all the bases there, Carol. You're absolutely right.
Sorry for taking the words right out of your mouth there. Okay, so now I think we are moving on to the next segment, and that is the No Detriment policy update, which is this week's priority, and it's a priority for all of our students, as our email inboxes can attest.
Yeah, you got that right. Yeah, why not? So let's take a step back. I think perhaps it's worth just going into a bit of the backstory, what's happened in the past few weeks, as opposed to just dumping a huge update without much context. So I'll start a few weeks ago. So what's been happening? EACP. What does that mean? It's the Exams and Assessments Contingency Panel. So essentially, this was the group that wrote last year's No Detriment policy, which Jim was in. And essentially, a couple of weeks ago, it was reinstated at Education Committee. So Education Committee is the group where many academics come and discuss matters pertaining to education. And at that group, they decided, right, we need a no detriment policy this year. We need some form of safety net. Let's, reinstate this group. And so that group was formally put back together, and it consists of myself, Jim, and then a number of other kind of key UCL staff. Since then, that group's met once a week. This week was a special case. We actually met twice a week. So on Monday, and then we literally just met, half an hour ago, 1 hour ago. And we've basically been working our way through the mitigations. So the first thing that we did is we wanted to kind of underline some key principles around which we're going to sort of have our conversations, around which we're going to form the mitigations. And the reason we did that was mainly just to inform us as members of EACP as to what our intentions are, as to what our priorities are when coming up with this policy. And we hope, I hope it kind of showed, gave just a bit of a taste as to what it is that we're looking at. And it's putting students right at the forefront of, of all the conversations. UCL released that earlier this week. Jim, do you want to mention a little bit about that?
Sure.
The principles?
Yeah. Well,
somebody has to.
I think it's fair to say that those principles did not land exactly the way we wanted them to, but that's because of the general situation around EACP and the no detriment policy. So like Eamon said, I worked with EACP last year and I'm doing the same this year. And the truth is, I can attest to the fact that this is very different this year from last year. Because last year, no detriment policy, safety net, those were new phrases. There was no sense of anticipation around this. There were no expectations to manage. And we, the SU and the institution UCL, were just working in the dark trying to create something that worked for students. That is not the same case this year. This year, we know what a no detriment policy looks like. We know what it sounds like. We've gone through the whole COVID situation for the entire year. We know we've gotten emails from students who've been suffering for the entire year. There is a greater sense of anticipation around this, and there's a greater need for expectation management. So communications needs to be handled quite a bit delicately, which we appreciate. So that is kind of the history of EACP and then where we're kind of sitting around it. For the first couple of meetings up to the meeting we just had, we focused on one specific element of the package that is going to be the safety net, which is extenuating circumstances. I don't want to preempt any UCL announcements around what that's going to look like, but hopefully you will be hearing something soon. But at least for now, it's probably worth explaining a little bit of what extenuating circumstances have looked like so far and look like currently. So, Eamon, to echo a question that was asked at EACP earlier, what is a self-certified EC?
I'm not sure where you heard that. A self-certified EC. So we recognise basically that this year it is really difficult sometimes to get evidence. Sometimes it's just not worth, that extra stress in trying to get evidence, and it's just, it doesn't work for students. So a self-certified EC, as I'm sure many of you will know, it's literally just you get 14 days of mitigation. So your deadlines won't matter. If it's used in exam period, then your exams will go to the late summer assessment, and you can get that automatically without having to get any evidence. And I know that in the past it's been really hard to get evidence. In fact, another project that I'm working on just for future years is we're looking at making self-certified ECs as just a thing which is going to be permanent. In a post-COVID world, you as students, you're not necessarily going to have to get evidence for every single EC that you do. There's just some cases where it simply just doesn't make sense. You've had a cold, you weren't able to study, and now 10 days later you've gone to your doctor saying, please, can you just get a letter saying, I had a cold 2 weeks ago? It just doesn't make sense. The system is outdated. It doesn't work for students. So, in the future, something to look forward to in a post-COVID world. You won't have to get any more GP notes. But for now, this year, you've got basically 2 lots of 14 days. So basically a whole month of self-certified ECs. We know that a lot of students have actually used those up so far, and it's something we're addressing right now. But like Jim said, I don't necessarily want to preempt anything from EACP. Please just hold tight, be patient, and news will come in due course. So that's, to answer your question, that's what a self-certified EC is, Jim, in case you didn't know.
And just to reiterate, that is a small part of a more robust package. There are other things that are also being considered and being looked at. I'm getting emails from students who believe that the entire no detriment policy is likely to be entirely retroactive. That is not the case. We're looking at other adjustments, not just ECs, but then adjustments based on technical difficulties that may be faced and ensuring that you're protected from those. We're looking at other accommodations that could be made, other mitigations. We're looking at possibilities of deferral. We're looking at a lot of things. And it's still early days. EACP has only met 3 times, of which today's meeting was an emergency meeting because they're scheduled for every Monday. We're hoping that, I know we announced earlier in the week that a timeline will be coming out. Again, that's part of what I hinted at earlier, that due to the sense of expectation, communications is something that has to be managed quite delicately. But then hopefully a proper timeline will be published very soon, which will actually explain to students when to anticipate specific decisions to be made and communicated, so that you are actually brought along this journey to understand to understand how this safety net and support package will be created for you. And Eamon and I are in this room meeting weekly, sometimes 2 times a week, to ensure that the student perspective is centered in this decision making process.
I just want to mention one other thing.
Oh, yep.
Oh, three at
Go
a time. All I was going to say is I know one thing which was quite a contentious issue, and I'm sure loads of students have seen it, the so-called staff no detriment policy, and I just want to make a small little comment just to kind of make some clarifications about that. So what was it? It was a Sunday night or something like that, and I was looking through my feed and I just see staff no detriment policy, the tab, and I was like, oh my goodness, what have UCL done? And it was something that Jim and I we brought up in the very next day, first thing in the morning, and to be fair. What we later found out that announcement of a staff no detriment policy was actually made last summer. We asked UCL sort of why why that came out. The name using the words no detriment was clumsy, and UCL were kind of chasing it up. It came from UCL HR, but it just doesn't affect the fact that you as students will be getting a no detriment policy, a safety net, whatever word you want to use. But yeah, I just wanted to address that. It's very old news. It just kind of resurfaced, and I totally understand why kind of students were concerned. I was concerned when I saw that, so don't worry too much.
Yeah, like it's often kind of strange to find out kind of news being a sabbatical officer from the tab, and you're like, oh, okay, what have UCL done and not involved students in? Oh, fantastic. That's very rare nowadays. Now, I will say, very different from a few years ago. So we are working closer together. But yeah, sometimes that stuff does catch us off guard. And just to kind of end this section, would one of you be able to really sum up where we are in the process in kind of a sentence or two?
Sure. We're at the tail end of finalizing what ECs should look like moving forwards. I believe we've also concluded on the things around technical difficulties, which I believe will be announced together with ECs. We don't want to do a drip feed approach where we're just going to constantly inundate students with information about how this develops. But then once anything robust is concluded, we're going to get that out, hopefully, and encourage the institution to get that out. And then we're also kind of looking at the more granular stuff further down the line. Well, not further down the line, that I shouldn't phrase it that way. How I should phrase it is we are anticipating that a lot of work will need to be done around statistical evidence and modeling to ensure the impact of the adjustment rules that are going to be brought in are manageable, and we anticipate as much of it as we can. That work takes time. So we're at the earlier start of that process when it comes to that bit of work. And like I said, we don't want to drip feed and inundate you with information. Once anything robust and concrete is concluded, you will be informed.
Okay, thank you for that paragraph, Jim, when I asked for a few sentences. Although a few sentences can be a paragraph, I will give you that. I'll give you that.
You know me,
a bit longer than I anticipated.
I always over-deliver.
Yeah, like you write the best formal letters. You just
That's true. That is true.
Beautiful. They're beautiful. Okay, unless you guys want to bring up anything else around no detriment policy, I think we can move on. Up to you guys.
I'm happy to move on.
Okay, I'm waiting for a nod from Jim. Fantastic.
Jim?
Okay, so each week we will do a featured interview with kind of someone involved in the union about kind of something that's coming up or something that they've worked on. And so this week we're actually interviewing Issy Smith on the This Girl Can week, which is coming up next week. And here we go. Hi, Issy. How are you?
Hello, I'm good, thank you. How are you?
I'm tired. Very glad it's a Friday.
Yeah, I feel you. I feel you there.
Absolutely. So can you tell us who you are?
So I'm Issy. I'm a 4th year language student, and I'm a sports assistant this year for Team UCL.
Oh, fantastic! So you're a member of student staff then?
Yes, I am. It's been a great opportunity, but yeah, new this year.
Yeah, at the Students' Union, we hire over 200 students to work within the Students' Union across a huge range of outlets, offices, departments, and I was a student staff, so I'm always kind of keen to meet others. Yeah, I worked in the bars. I managed Medic Sports Night for 2 years. I saw a lot.
Oh, you are brave. You are brave for 2 years as well.
Yeah, it was a trial by fire, definitely. But now getting more onto topic on This Girl Can Week. So, what is This Girl Can?
So, This Girl Can is a week-long campaign that has happened for several years now, and it's to encourage women of all shapes, sizes, abilities, no matter their background or where they are, to get active in whatever way that suits them. So this week is starting next week. And the Student Union and sports clubs will be supporting this through social media activations, profiles of students, and free events.
Fantastic. You said my favourite word, free. So how can students get involved and kind of what opportunities are there with current restrictions, RE, lockdown?
Oh, the infamous word right there. So obviously we are in lockdown. We are being encouraged to stay at home. But the Student Union have provided us with a library of online events and resources. Profiles of current students are all available on Project Active website. And Project Active is offering free classes for This Girl Can Week, in addition to the usual that we already have, due to, the extensive calendar that we've got that you can see on the What's On on the Student Union website. Just a highlight of next week, I think, is Tuesday evening we have House of Voga, and that's Voga meets yoga. That's Vogue Meets Yoga. So basically getting active to 80s tunes. Honestly, I'm so excited for it. Nothing beats 80s
dream.
tunes. Yeah, me too. So not only do we have that, but we also have sports clubs running virtual sessions. So from running to beginner-friendly HIIT classes, or other bits and bobs of how the clubs are staying fit throughout lockdown. So do get involved with them. There is plenty of opportunities. There is also a virtual challenge where you are encouraged to monitor activity minutes. So whether that's a walk, a run, a cycle, yoga, HIIT, it all counts. And if you reach certain milestones, you will be put in for a draw for UCL merch or even Sweaty Betty vouchers, which honestly makes me quite excited.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm going to be entering.
Do it.
Well, fantastic. I've taken a few Project Active classes through my many years at UCL, but my I say favourite in a very loose sense because I really enjoyed all of them, but my favourite were the Pilates I think it was Tuesday lunchtime Pilates sessions, Tuesdays or Thursdays, I can't remember, and the instructors are always so friendly and there's absolutely no pressure to do the move exactly correct, as long as you're doing it safely and not accidentally stressing a muscle where you shouldn't be. There's no expectations to be perfect, and I think that's what's so brilliant about Project Active.
Oh, 100%. There is no level for ability. You could never have done a bit of sport in your life, or you could have done some, and no matter where you are at, you will find something challenging because you can push yourself just as far as you can or wherever you are comfortable to, and the instructors, as you say, are so encouraging in that fact.
Yeah, absolutely brilliant. So as a fellow woman, I guess we could say, can you tell us about your experiences with sport and physical activity and what barriers you have faced and what the key benefits to This Girl Can Week are?
Sure. So I've done 2 clubs since I entered in my first year. There are not clubs that I expected to join. I do cheerleading and dodgeball. And, it is very nerve-wracking to get involved with sports that you've never had anything to do with before. And there's a bit of apprehension. You don't know what to expect. You don't know how the people are going to be. And in some instances, for instance, like cheerleading, you have a lot of stereotypes that you're expecting them to be fulfilled. But actually, no. The clubs and all these events that are being held, everyone is so entirely friendly and they are so supportive. It does not matter if you've had any experience before, you've had loads of experience. They are keen to welcome you regardless. So I settled in very quickly, and that's why I'm still doing these two sports, and that's why I've been on committee for 2 years. I can't seem to stay away. And obviously, not just that, but entering lockdown, you are separated from your sports and doing these things. I love team events, so I don't really do much individual stuff, but I started running in lockdown. I hate it. I genuinely hated it. But do you know what? I persevered with it just because it was a challenge. It was motivating me to go and do something, get out the house, and it gave me goals. I had an idea of like, I want to complete a 5K maybe like at the end of this month, and no matter how slow or how fast I was, it didn't matter to me, just that I actually pushed myself to do that. And ultimately, you feel so good afterwards, no matter how a little of improvement. If you don't improve at all, the fact that you just got up, you've got your blood pumping, it does make you feel so good. And this Girl Can is just a perfect week to get involved. If you're a woman, you're not comfortable maybe joining these really big society events or whatever it is, majority of these sessions will also be held by female instructors as well. So if you are nervous, a bit conscious of yourself, then there's no worries about that at all. And I think it's just a really good way to get introduced into the many forms of being active.
Absolutely. And I think so I have never really been active in any sense of the word, except for maybe walking to work like a few days a week. And for me, I'm really going to use this Girl Can week to kind of try things that I haven't tried before, because I tried to do the couch to 5K and I pulled something in my foot, so I stopped for a few weeks and I just haven't really picked that up, and I stopped about 4 months ago. And kind of I definitely have a little bit of quarantine chub additional to my pre-COVID chub. So motivation is definitely kind of a big thing for maybe a lot of people, but particularly me. And kind of having those very low pressure environments to try something new are just so fantastic to have, and great opportunities to just push the boat out, try something new, and if you like it, fantastic, and if you don't, there are so many other opportunities to try something new.
Genuinely, I think that is really the beauty of it. Just these are all free events. You won't lose anything by joining. It will just be a bit of fun. Like I've attended some, especially Zumba. I love Zumba. And it's just honestly, it makes it, isn't it good? You just have a giggle, you just have a laugh, and you know what? In this time, like we kind of need a bit of enjoyment, a little bit of something to look forward to, and maybe it is a socializing aspect as well. If you find something that you really enjoy, then you can become a regular to that, and maybe just that contact and just getting up and active is just, I think it's really invaluable actually.
Yeah, it's brilliant. So just so my last question, and I think you've answered some of it already, but just why should UCL students get involved next week?
Well, I don't know about you, but I don't have a lot on them right now, so why not? But no, on a serious note, do check out, the profiled students and how it's benefited them. You can see that on the Project Active website. Just because, sports clubs have regular scheduled exercise classes, and so does the Project Active and the Union. And it's just a great opportunity to explore new things from the comfort of your own home, or in your own area if you want to get out. And it's just a great chance to meet people, have a laugh, be in a comfortable environment, especially for this Girl Can week, and just the perfect time to get involved. No matter the ability, it is accessible for all.
That's a fantastic message to finish the interview on. I've really enjoyed chatting to you. This hasn't felt like, I don't know, it's just been so natural talking to you. It's been fantastic. And we had a little bit of a bonding bit about being student staff, and, about being a woman at UCL. It's fantastic. So thank you so much, Issy, and good luck in whatever you're doing next week, and maybe see you in a few sessions.
Oh, thank you so much. Thank you for the interview. You've been fabulous. And I look forward to seeing you soon.
Yeah, fantastic. Thank you so much, Issy.
Okay,
so brilliant. So now the next part is about looking forward to next week. And now Jim is going to tell us what the highlights for next week are.
Cool. So just before we sign off, I am going to run through a couple of the events that we have coming up over the next week. First up, we've got Interning Abroad, How to Stand Out with a Global Experience. So on Monday, the 25th of January from 11 to 12, Business Society and AIESEC are hosting an interactive event with two speakers who will be breaking down their own experience of working abroad, how they progressed through the opportunity, and the benefits it created. The event is open to all students from any degree backgrounds. So hop onto our WhatsApp calendar and book yourself in. Also, we've got a language plus write-in support program, Coffee and Conversation, also on the 25th of January from 1:30 to 2:30. You may have heard of these already, but if you haven't, then this is a great program to help non-native English-speaking students with their academic writing and speaking. Also, we have a Holocaust Memorial Day, which is on the 27th of January. The Jewish Society are co-hosting an event with the Holocaust Educational Trust to mark the day. Holocaust survivor John Dubai, I hope I said that right, will be sharing the testimony of his personal experience during the Holocaust. Listening to testimony helps us to put a human face to history, and this is an incredible opportunity for students to hear firsthand from a survivor. The event is free, and the listing is on our WhatsApp calendar, and you need to book tickets to attend. Fourthly, we have the event we've already heard about, This Girl Can plus House of Voga. It's Tuesday, the 26th of January from 6 to 6:45. It's This Girl Can week next week, so of course we have to include one of the most amazing sessions that we've ever run. So, what is Voga? Vogue, yoga, fashion, and fitness set to an 80s house beat designed to empower. Channel your inner Madonna with this one. And lastly,
well, I mean, sorry, Jim, just to quickly interrupt. I hate with a passion that whenever we mention Vogue, Madonna is almost mentioned. Yes, she had a really famous song with it, but Vogue didn't come about because Madonna wanted to. Vogue was such an incredible kind of ballroom scene in kind of New York and in kind of other parts of the United States, and actually I still watch kind of voguing competitions, and there are some incredible voguers coming from like Paris and kind of other areas in France, and it's just incredible. So that was just my little rant about how Vogue is not just Madonna's song or the stuff you see on Drag Race. It's a part of it, but it's not where it originated.
I have a sneaky feeling that if anyone attends this event, they're bound to see Carol there.
Well, unfortunately, I've actually got one of our student democratic meetings, Welfare and Community Zone, at the same time. So I might try and see if I can find it online somewhere else. Or hopefully they run it again. I might talk to Ilias.
It's called multitasking. And also another event we should highlight is a Gender and Feminism Society. They're running a murder mystery night on Friday the 29th of January at 5:30. If you're an Agatha Christie fan, this will be fun for you. Ultimately, we have tons of events running. Look out for Ilias's email in your inbox on Monday morning with everything that's happening next week, and also check out the WhatsApp calendar. Ultimately, thank you so much for watching. We love you all and see you next week. In the meantime, stay safe, stay healthy, and live.
I knew it was coming.
Oh, that's Jim's trademark finisher. Thank you everyone for joining us. Hopefully we'll see you again next week, depending on who's available to do this. And yeah, it's been fantastic to be able to kind of talk to you guys about everything that's happened this week and what's coming up. I'm definitely going to get involved in This Girl Can, and I hope kind of everyone else gets involved as well. And yeah, see all you soon. What did you say, Jim? Stay healthy. Stay safe, stay healthy, and live.
Yeah.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.